Hi, this is Ryan at springvilleonline.com. A lot of things have inspired springvilleonline.com. Certainly growing up in Utah, being born and raised there most of my life, going to school in Springville and Mapleton, buying my first house in Mapleton, losing my youngest brother to suicide in Mapleton. So Springville, Mapleton is, deep part of my heart and my being. And I care deeply for what's going on there. And I left. It's a difficult culture for me. I've had a difficult enough life, and I just wanted some peace from authoritarian and theocratic, government and authorities and culture. And as much as I love the environment and the wilderness and the landscape and my friends and some of my family that I still love and talk to regularly, I still can't bring myself to live there. And it'll probably be long time from now before I can. We still visit quite a bit. Visiting Utah requires us to take 2 cars now, because we have 6 people and 5 seats in my wife's car. So it entails me bringing my truck as well, because we just had my grandmother move in with us, which is a huge blessing. She left Springville to live with us after some issues in her life with family occurred and left her pretty much with nothing and homeless and needing a place to stay. And she's always been wonderful to me, and we're glad to have her. But we can't get to Utah as much as we used to based on our current family size. We don't travel much until we can get a bigger car, which we will do soon. But some of the things, and I don't like to talk about my life to illustrate what I think is happening in Utah. I don't like talking about my life. I don't like talking about my family. I really don't. It's a painful subject, painful for me, and I'm sure painful for others. So it's not something that I look forward to doing. I sometimes break down and make a video because I just see something that needs to be addressed, something that's on my heart, something that maybe the community is suffering from, and I make a video. And I try to use other examples. Like I talk about the corruption going on in Utah, and I often refer to my case, but I just try to avoid it. It becomes such a monkey on my shoulder, and I just hate it. But I still see these problems. Like just recently, 2 police chiefs right near Springville were decertified. One in Provo and one in Spanish Fork were decertified. Corruption at all levels of government. Steve Turley in Provo faces 10 felonies. He was on the city council of Provo. He's facing 10 felonies for taking advantage of a vulnerable adult and fraud and all kinds of things. Just so much corruption there. Plus, there's the indoctrination in the local laws and local law enforcement. And personal liberties is a last priority, it seems like, in Utah. Civil liberties is not respected. Order and control is the goal, but individual liberty and civil liberties, not really a big concern for the police that are sworn to protect and serve the people there. So it's hard for me to live there. But, I illustrated some problems that I had with my family. I removed my name from the LDS Church membership records in 2000. I didn't need, some sort of excommunication or disfellowshipment, for being a descending member or descending former member of the church, which they have done, in the past. Scholars, people, in high-ranking callings of the Mormon Church, and donating, tithing every month. I can think of several. Grant Palmer, and then the September 6th back in the 90s, that were all scholars and either professors or authors. But well-respected people in the community. I can list off the names: Lynn Whitesides, Abraham Galidi, Paul Toscano, which is a friend of mine, a lawyer that helped me out in a case in Utah once, a civil case, and his wife Margaret Toscano, Maxine Hanks, Lavina Fielding Anderson, and Michael Quinn. I think he's got some other weird baggage in history, like I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. I don't know a huge amount about them, other than they were all authors and they were all scholars. And in 1993, in September of 1993, they were all, well, 5 of them were excommunicated, 1 of them was disfellowshipped, but they were, publicly, reprimanded, publicly, and very personally reprimanded. And it's only public because everybody in the church knows that when you can't take your fast offerings, when you're in church and you have been excommunicated or disfellowshipped, you're not supposed to, take their sacrament and their offerings and things like that, and that stands out. But and I'm sure they made a fuss of it themselves. I mean, gosh, they got excommunicated for having an opinion, for speaking their mind. It just seems like very little wiggle room for questions or alternate points of view in the Mormon Church. It's very dogmatic, and that's a problem. That's another reason why I left Utah. But and there's another book. It's called Suddenly Strangers. And once you distance yourself from the Mormon Church, you're out, man. And that book illustrates what the process is. Of the whole distance makes the heart grow fonder thing, where they push you and push you and push you away and shame you and make you feel bad in hopes that you're going to repent and come back to the Mormon Church and accept all doctrine as law and the supreme authority and everything. And if you don't, then you stay on the outs, and that's your punishment for life or however long you choose it. And some of us have just had to accept that with our family. Whether they're wayward members, whether they're Jack Mormons, or whether they're full-on Mormons, they don't want to face certain consequences of being on the outs of the community or the family. Whether it be financially motivated or socially motivated or, relationship, family-oriented, or all three. It's hard for people to really step out against things that they believe are wrong, that they say privately they think are wrong, but publicly they won't say anything about it, because of how that community works there. And, like I say, for a couple of examples, look up Grant Palmer, who was a church educator. He was the director of the church education system for 31 years, very high-ranking member, never did anything in the Mormon Church except for write a book that, disagreed maybe, but had his own take on the beginnings of the church and the church history and the writings of the Book of Mormon. He didn't go with the standard traditional Mormon church view, the dogmatic view, or the view that you would hear in BYU. He went with his own point of view, which was well researched. Obviously, he was a church historian and a director of the church history, church education center. He was, one of the top guys for church history and church education, and he had a alternate view, so he was disfellowshipped, and it was a big deal, and he made a big deal about it, and he still goes to church and he still pays his tithing, but he disagrees on, standard doctrine, standard history, and standard points of view, and so he's got an alternate point of view, and he got punished for it. And so that's what I'm saying. Check out the September 6th. Check out Grant Palmer. Check out this book written by Brad Morin and his brother. It's called Suddenly Strangers, and you'll kind of get what I'm saying. So that's how I want to illustrate this. I'm feeling some family pains right now, and some distance, and some heartache and some heartbreak, and so is my grandmother. So is my 91-year-old grandmother, and we've both got this condition here to deal with. And so I'm venting. That's what I do sometimes. I made another video and I kind of went into personal details, more than I wanted to go into. And I don't like to conceal things. I mean, I like to be an open person. Sometimes things just are too heavy, too much, and too deep. And so I like to skirt around that at this point. And maybe I'll write a book about it. well into my later life when I'm 80 years old. But for now, I've got some private writings, but I'm not looking to release anything, and nothing personal anyway. So I like to illustrate things using other examples and other similar stories and things like that. So that's my pain lately. And if you feel me, check those books out. And I forget the book that Grant Palmer wrote. Grant Palmer wrote a great book. It was about Joseph Smith. Anyway, look up Grant Palmer. Look up his books in Amazon. He's great. He's got a good book. Insider View on Mormon History or something like that. Insiders, something like that. Anyway, but yeah, it's a good one. I read it online and I liked it quite a bit. So anyway, peace out. And you know what, people, don't take these prescription drug issues not so serious. Just because they're legal, just because your doctor says you can have them, doesn't mean they're safe. I have a lot of people that I know in my life who have died from prescription drugs. Lots of funerals. I went to about 15 kids' funerals, or young adults and kids. My brother at 16 died on a overdose, intentional overdose, as I understand it. But these drugs mess with you. They make you feel sadder. They can cause suicide. They can cause homicide. They can cause violent reactions. And I grew up using these medications as a young adult, young teenager, preteen even, most of my childhood. And I know the emotional and mental consequences that you can get from these drugs that they prescribe you. So, antidepressants, especially ADHD medication, and so many others, look at the side effects. If you just go to your doctor, ask him what he thinks, if he recommends you take a medicine, or if he gives you some options, tell him that you'd like to think about it first. Go home, research them on the internet, then call him and say, hey, yeah, I'd like that prescription if it suits your needs, and if you're willing to accept the consequences, the possible consequences of this, and this, depending on the drug. Just be careful out there, and read up on what God intended us to use, as far as medicines. Look up Genesis chapter 1, look up verse 29. Peace.